Greetings everyone, Namaskar. Let us start our Gita study. We are studying chapter 8. The Shanti Mantra, please chant for today, is from Devi Mahatmyam, Chandi. Chandi or Devi Mahatmyam, also called Durga Saptashti, occurs as a part of the Markandeya Puranam. There are 18 major Puranas. One of them is the Markandeya Puranam. Markandeya is the name of a rishi who gave the teachings. Of the 18 Puranas, the most famous and the most important Purana is the Bhagavatam, Bhagavata Puranam. Now this shloka verse is from Chandi. This is on page 132 of this book, Universal Prayers. The last one on that page 132. Om Devyaya tatamidam jagadatma shaktya nishesha devagana shakti samuha murtya tamambika mikhila deva maharshi pujyam bhaktya natasma vidadhatu shubhani sanaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O Divine Mother, your energy pervades this entire universe. You embody the powers of the diverse presiding deities. You are the object of worship to all the gods and sages. Please bestow on us what is auspicious. We bow down to you in devotion. Om peace. May there be peace and joy in our hearts. May there be peace and harmony amongst all beings. And may there be peace everywhere in nature. Now we go to chapter 8. Of all the chapters in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8 has a unique position. In the chapter 8, we find the way to liberation, direct. If we are seeking liberation, moksha or salvation, then the simplest and most direct way to achieve that is given in this chapter 8. In other words, I can say chapter 8 has the most effective exit strategy to exit from this world of suffering. Later on in this same chapter, Sri Krishna is going to say, this world is a place of suffering. In the next chapter also I will say the same thing. The Lord who created this world, who runs this world, himself says this place is this world is a place of suffering. And if you are trying to find happiness in it, good luck. It won't work. And this place is not our permanent place. We are only here as pilgrims, as travelers. This is not where we belong. This is a strange land. We are here to work out our karma because we wanted to have we had some desires to fulfill. And to fulfill those desires, this body had to be assumed, acquired, and we are here for a short time. Nothing is permanent in this world. One day everything will end, and we have to give up everything and leave and go back to our own abode. What is our true abode, permanent abode, where we truly belong? The Lord Himself, Bhagavan, or Brahman, the ultimate reality. That's what we are. But this is a temporary sojourn. This world, this traveling, this lifetime that we are spending right now is not a permanent thing. We have to leave this sooner or later. And the best way to leave this, exit from this cycle of birth and death, is indicated in chapter 8. That we already have studied. It will come again. So the first shloka which mentions this is, we are going back a little bit. Verse number 5 and 6 and 13. I pointed out these three verses in the beginning. Verse number 5 says, whoever departs this world, gives up the body, thinking of whatever subject in one's mind, that subject indicates the destination where that person is going to go after giving up the body. This is verse number 5. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati tyajam yah prayati samadbhavam yamati nastyatra samshayah. At the end, whoever departs giving up this body and remembering me alone, me means Bhagavan, Lord, in any form, your choice, your Ishta Devata, chosen ideal, remembering, proceeds to my status. That means we reach God. Of this there is no doubt. Atra samshayaha nasti. Firm, unequivocal statement. In general, whatever thought we think about at the last moment, that's where our destination will be. That is explained in the next verse, verse number 6. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tame vaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitaha. Remembering whatever being one gives up the body at the end, that very being one reaches. O Arjuna, ever conforming to that being. If you remember Sri Rama at the time of death, we go to Sri Rama. If you remember Sri Krishna at the time of death, we go to Sri Krishna. If you remember any other deity, Shiva, Parvati, Jesus Christ, whomever we choose to worship all our life, whomever we are thinking about at the time of departure, that is where we go. That means the future is in our hands. What we do in the present life dictates what happens in the future. We create our future. This is what Swami Vivekananda emphasized this one. Our destiny is in our hands. What I have done before, the result is causing what is happening now. What is happening now is result of what I did before. All my previous samskaras, good and bad, they are acting, producing the result now. That's what I am experiencing in this life. Some good, some bad. What I do now in this life will determine what will happen in the future. So we are the makers of our own destiny. Where we want to go, that we decide. It's in our hand. That is the importance of this chapter 8. It keeps everything back to us in our hands. It puts our destiny into our hands in this chapter 8. That is why it is very interesting and very important. Now, how to accomplish this one? all of a sudden we won't be able to think about God at the last moment. Whatever we have been thinking most of the time during our lifetime, that's what we'll be thinking at the last moment also. If a person, a businessman has been thinking about business all his life, how to acquire more business, how to make more money, how to do this, all those things if he has been thinking, that's what he'll be thinking most probably at the time of death also. All of a sudden he cannot change his thinking and think about God, that won't happen. So how to make sure that we'll be thinking about God at the last moment? That is explained in this next verse, verse number 7. 5, 6, 7, 3 verses and 13. Verse number 7, Sri Krishna says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhyacha mayyarpita mano buddhihi mame vaishyasi asamshayaha. Simple. If you want to think about God at the time of death, start thinking about God at all times from this moment onwards. Sarveshu kaleshu, therefore, tasmat, therefore, sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara, remember me at all times. In the midst of our duties, we don't have to give up our duties. We do all our work as worship or offering, as we have studied before. Then when we are working also, our mind is on God, because we are doing everything as offering, as worship. The thought of God is never away from our mind. Even in the midst of our very busy duties, before and after, we can think about God. If not during we don't have to, the work requires concentration. But before beginning any work, we say, I am going to do this as offering, as worship, I will do my best. At the end we say, I have done my best, please offer it, accept it as my offering, as my worship. So keeping God in the background in our minds and performing all our duties, that's what Sri Krishna says here. Sarveshu kaleshu, at all times mam anusmara, remember me, and yudhyacha, perform your duty, fight. At that time Arjuna's duty was to fight. So yudhya also means, fight also means fighting within our minds with our own lower tendencies. We all have inherited lower tendencies, unhealthy, impure impressions from previous actions and thoughts and thoughts. So they are always obstructing us. So we have to fight, we have to deal with them, trying to replace them with good, positive, holy, auspicious thoughts. That fight has to go on constantly in our minds. Mayyarpita mano buddhihi, dedicating your mind and intellect to me. Intellect means deciding, the faculty that makes decisions in our mind, right and wrong, good and bad, that kind of decision. The buddhi, that has to exercise its decision-making faculty in telling the mind to think only about God and do only work related to God, or do all work as worship of God. That buddhi advises the mind. The mind controls the sense organs. You know this from our study of the Katha Upanishad, where imagery is comparing the body to a chariot is given. The mind controls the horses. The horses are sense organs. Buddhi, the intellect, tells the mind what to tell the horses, in which direction to guide them. So our mind, intellect, sense organs all have to be engaged in doing everything as worship, as offering. Then we are always in communion with God. We are never separate from God. So that is verse number 7. Now, whom are we worshipping? What is the goal? The first question of Arjuna was at the beginning of chapter, Kim tad Brahma? First question, what is Brahman? And Arjuna gave a very short reply. Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Brahman is Akshara, imperishable reality, Brahman. He didn't give any description, details. That will come here and subsequently. So verse number 9, the supreme reality, Parama Purusha, supreme being, whom we are worshipping through all our actions, is being described. Description of the Parama Purusha, supreme being, God. So verse number 9, Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoraniyan Samanusmaredyah Sarvasya Dataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parastat. We studied this verse before. I'll read the translation. Whoever remembers the wise, Kavi means the wise, all-knowing, Sarvajna, one who knows everything, God, omniscient. One who remembers the wise, ancient ruler, Puranam Anushasitaram. Anushasana means ruling, administering, ordaining things. Purana means ancient, timeless, beginningless. Ancient ruler, Anoraniyan, subtler than the subtlest. Sukshmat, Sukshmataram, scripture says. Subtler than the subtlest. If something is gross, name and form and quality, then we can grasp it. We can see through sense organs. But Atman, Brahman is pure consciousness, extremely subtle. It cannot be sensed by the sense organs. Anoraniyan yaha samanusmaret, that person who remembers me, he who remembers me, and other qualities. Sarvasya Dhataram, one who is the upholder of everything. Upholder means one who supports the whole universe. The whole universe, nature, functions as ordained and empowered by Brahman. That we studied from the Upanishads, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and Katha Upanishad and Mundaka Upanishad. There the idea comes, the whole universe functions, everything from the smallest ant to the sun and the galaxy. They all function as ordained by Brahman, as made possible, empowered by Brahman. Everything we do, even if you blink once, that ability to blink is given to us. The blinking is made possible by the power of the Lord present within us. Without that power, we can't even blink once. So, Sarvasya Dhataram means the supporter of everything. Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam. Cannot imagine or visualize the form of God. You can visualize the form of deities. You can visualize Krishna, Rama, Jesus Christ, Buddha, Hanuman, Saraswati, Parvati, Shiva. We can visualize all those things. There are forms, or the rishis have seen those forms. But ultimate reality, pure consciousness, there is no form. Achintya Rupam, formless. Achintya Rupam, Aditya Varnam, effulgent like the sun. Sun is the brightest thing in this part of this universe. There are bigger suns in outer space, but for us sun is the brightest object that we can see. Brighter than the sun. Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat, beyond the domain of darkness or ignorance. That is the Brahman, ultimate reality, whom we are going to think about. Using a form, we can use a form of our choice, but all forms are his forms. Brahman has infinite forms. One reality, infinite forms. We can choose the form in which we want to worship God, think about God. That is the beauty of Sanatana Dharma, that freedom to worship in your own way, without fear. Now verse number 10 describes the yogic practice, how Raja Yogis accomplish this concentration in the last moment. Let's do verse number 10. Prayana kale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bhruvor madhye pranamaveshya samyak satam param purushamupaiti divyam. A person who practices yoga in this way, as described in this verse, what happens? Saha, such a person, tam purusham divyam upaiti, reaches that supreme purusha. When you read the description, it may be frightening, because how can you do all those yogic practices, advanced practices? But it's not required. Let us see what is said here in verse number 10. Simply keeping the mind on God, repeating our mantra, God's name is enough. But this is for yogis. Verse number 10. Prayana kale, at the time of departure. Prayana means traveling. At the time of departure, at the time of giving up the body. Achalena manasa, with an unmoving mind, with a steady mind. Chala means unsteady, moving. Achala means unmoving. Achalena manasa means with a steady mind, not wavering between various objects. Bhaktya yukta, endowed with devotion. Yoga balena chaiva. Yoga bala means the power of yoga. That means steadiness born of constant practice of concentration. Bala means strength. Balam balavata masmi kamaraga vivarjitam, that we studied in the 7th chapter. Bala means strength. Strength can be of different types. The most familiar type of strength is Bahubala or Dehabala, bodily strength. A person has very strong body. They can bench press 500 pounds 10 times. But that kind of Dehabala or Bahubala is short-lived, temporary. Everybody cannot achieve that kind of strength. And even those who achieve that kind of strength, with time it diminishes. In old age, the strength will go away rapidly. That is one kind of strength. It is necessary, but is not permanent. Bahubala or Dehabala, bodily strength, physical strength. Second kind of strength is Manobala, mental power, more important. Mind must be very strong. A person with a weak mind cannot achieve anything. In the Upanishads it says, Nayamatma balahinena labhyaha. This Atman cannot be achieved, self-realization cannot be achieved by a balahina, a weak person. Mental strength, moral strength is very important. Second kind of strength. The third kind of strength is Yoga Bala. That's Sri Krishna is talking about here. Yoga Bala means the power of concentration achieved by long practice of concentration. Totally unwavering mind. So here going back to the verse, Yoga balena chaiva bhaktya yuktaha, endowed with devotion and with yoga bala, with the power of concentration acquired or by the practice of long period of years of concentration, meditation. Then what that person should do? Pranam bhruvor madhye samyak aveshya, firmly fixing the prana, the vital force, between the eyebrows. This is not meant for every one of us. This is a Raja Yoga practice. Those who do this one, We can simply, for devotees, the method is very simple. The method for devotees is very simple. Simply remember God with love. Love is the key. If you love God and remember God, if possible, repeat mantra or God's name also is enough. Keep the mind on God somehow, that's enough. But this is for yogis. Bhruvar madhye, bhru means the eyebrows. Between the eyebrows is called Ajna Chakra. Ajna or Vishuddhi Chakra. Ajna Chakra. Ajna Chakra. There, fixing the prana, the vital force, bhruvar madhye pranam avesha, samyak avesha, tam param purusham divyam upaiti. Such a person who practices concentration fixes the prana, vital force, between the eyebrows. By the strength of concentration acquired by a long period of meditation, with a concentrated mind, such a person, what happens? Such a person, divyam purusham upaiti, reaches the supreme person, described in the previous verse. Kavim Puranam Manushasitaram, that Parama Purusha, that means Supreme Reality, Brahman or God, reaches God. Then, description of that Supreme Parama Purusha. Again, going back to the first question Arjuna asked. At the beginning of this chapter, Arjuna asked 7 questions. The answers to first and last questions are the most important ones. In between are merely definitions. Adhyatma, Adhibhuta, Adhidaiva, Yajna, Karma, all those things are merely terms being defined. But the first question Arjuna asked was, Kim Tad Brahma, what is Brahman? Upanishads talk about Brahman. That's their main theme, Upanishads. Talk about Brahman. Brahman is ultimate reality, pure consciousness. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, says the Taittiriya Upanishad. Brahman is Satyam, truth, ultimate reality, truth, never changes. At all times it is unchanging. Satyam. Jnanam, it is consciousness, pure consciousness. Anantam, it is infinite. So like this, in the Upanishads, Brahman has been described. And then Chandogya Upanishad, he says, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma Tajjala Niti Shanta Upasita. Idam Sarvam Brahma Khalu. Idam means this whole visible universe, creation, is Brahman itself, appearing like that when seen through the mind and sense organs. And what is that Brahman? Upanishad says that from which the whole universe has emanated, that by which the whole universe is supported, and that unto which the whole universe goes back and merges at the end. That is Brahman. Shanta Upasita, one should meditate on Brahman calmly like this. Again, going back to Taittiriya Upanishad, Brahman is described in this way. Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisamvishanti tad vijijñāsasva tad brahma. So teacher says to the student that from which the whole universe and all the beings have emanated, that by which the whole universe and all beings are being supported, and that unto which everything, all beings recede, into which they recede at the end, that is Brahman. Inquire into the nature of that one. So that is Brahman, and it is called Aksharam. In answer to the first question, Sri Krishna says, Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Now same thing comes here in verse number 11. Let me chant verse number 11. Yadaksharam vedavido vadanti vishanti yadyatayo vitaragaha yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe. So Bhagavan Sri Krishna says to Arjuna, I shall briefly describe Brahman. Yadaksharam Vedavidaha vadanti. Vedavida means those who knows the Vedas. Those who know the Vedas, they call it Aksharam. Aksharam vadanti. Yadaksharam vadanti. Aksharam means imperishable. Akshara also means the letter. Akshara also means the syllable Om. Akshara here means the imperishable ultimate reality, Brahman. Yadaksharam Vedavido vadanti. Yatayaha Vitaragaha yataya yad vishanti. Vitaragaha means those yatis. Yati means those striving for liberation. The sages striving for liberation, yatis. Yatayaha, those sages who are striving for liberation, who are free from attachment. Vitaragaha. Raga means attachment. They have no attachment to anything, not even to the body. Because it's a foreign thing. It's an outside thing. I am not the body. I am something like the garment. I have the body. I am not attached to the garment. If it is there, it is there. If it is not there, it is not there. That we know from the second chapter. The body is like a garment. It's not us. It is something that we have for a short period, temporary possession only of the body. Body includes the mind and all sense organs. So in the second chapter, remember this verse, number 22. There Sri Krishna compares the body to a garment. Chapter 2, verse 22. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grinnati naroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. So this Atman, this individual soul, has this body for a short time only, like we are having this garment for some time. This garment was not always with me, and it won't be always with me. I am using it now, and after some time when it becomes old and worn out, I will put it aside and may take a new garment. The body is like that. No attachment to the body. Vitaragaha, the last word in the first line of verse number 11. Vitaragaha yatayaha, those yatis, striving, those seekers of liberation who are free from attachment to everything. Yad vishanti, they want to enter into that Brahman, they want to merge in that Brahman. Yadi chantaha, desiring which, brahmacharyam charanti, they practice brahmacharya. In the Upanishads, it says that if somebody wants to have self-knowledge, if somebody wants to know Brahman and one's own identity with Brahman, then one of the requirements is to practice a brahmacharya. Most essential requirement is practice of brahmacharya. Yadichantaha, those who desiring which, brahmacharyam charanti, observe brahmacharya, tat, te means to you, tat padam, that goal, that Brahman, sangrahena pravakshe, briefly I shall describe. Aksharam, imperishable Brahman. Here, in the Kathopanishad, a passage comes where it is said that to know Brahman, one has to practice brahmacharya. Very essential. The verse is like this in the Kathopanishad, a short verse. Sarve deva yat padama mananti tapamsi sarvani chayadvadanti yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena bravimi om iti etat. This Kathopanishad. The translation is, Apart from righteousness and unrighteousness, the goal that all Vedas proclaim, that all penances declare, seeking which they lead the life of continence, brahmacharya. I explain that briefly to you, namely Om. So, practice of brahmacharya is very important for seekers of self-knowledge, Brahma Jnana. That is explained here. Edichanto brahmacharyam charanti. Verse number 11. These are all the requirements. Then, at the time of death, we should close all our other activities. Not seeing at anything, looking at anything, not hearing anything, not doing any other activity with our sense organs. Total concentration of the mind on the self or on God. All other sense organs have to be made very quiet. That is explained in verse number 12. 12 and 13. Sarvadvarani samyamya mano hridi nirudhya cha murdhyadayatmana pranam asthito yoga dharanam. Verse number 12. The translation is controlling all gateways of the senses, confining the mind in the heart, fixing the life breath, prana, in the crown, and intent on the maintenance of yoga. Then verse number 13, continuation. Om ityekaksharam brahma vyaharan mamanusmaran yah prayati tyajan deham sayati paramam gatim. Om iti ekaksharam brahma vyaharan. Uttering, pronouncing the word Om, one syllable Om, mamanusmaran, remembering me. Me means our chosen ideal. God in the form of our chosen ideal. Yaha deham tyajan prayati. That person who leaves the body and proceeds, saha paramam gatim yati. Such a person reaches supreme abode, namely Brahman. So let us do 12 and 13 here. Sarva dvarani. Dwara means door. Sarva dvarani. How many doors are there in our body? 5, 10, 11, 13. So it depends upon how we count. 5 sense organs of perception, Jnanendriyas, those are the main ones. They are the doors to the outside world. Eyes tell us what we see. Name and eyes tell us form, shape, color, size, distance, all those eyes convey. Ears convey sound. Tongue conveys taste. Skin conveys a sense of touch, smooth and hard, rough and smooth, hot and cold. That skin conveys. And smell conveys, nose conveys the smell. 5 input sense organs, input ports. They have to be closed. That means you should not be looking at anything, you should not be eating anything or touching anything. They have to be closed. Sarvadvarani samyamya, controlling the 5 input ports, sense organs. Sarvadvarani also means the 9 gateways that we studied in the previous chapter, and in the 5th chapter. In chapter 5, there is verse number 13. There, Sri Krishna said, this body is a city of 9 gates. You may remember it, you have to remember it, chapter 5, verse number 9. There Sri Krishna described this body as a city of 9 gates. Navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karayan. Verse number 9 in verse number 13 in chapter 5. There it says, Sarva karmani sanyasya manasa sanyasya aste sakham mashi. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasya aste sakham mashi. Manasa sarva karmani sanyasya, mentally relinquishing all actions. Manasa sarva karmani sanyasya sukham aste vashi. Calmly a person should remain. Navadvare pure dehi naiva kuruvanna karayan. 5:13. In the city of, Pura means city, Navadvara means in the city of 9 gates, the individual soul must remain completely calm and uninvolved in anything. Not looking at anything, not seeing anything, not eating anything, not saying anything. That's how we should be at the last moment. That's how we should be doing practice during meditation. We should not do any this during meditation. So Sarvadvarani Samyamya, 9 gates, Dwara. In the Kathopanishad, there Yama said the city of 11 gates. 5 gates, 9 gates, 11 gates. Puram ekadashadvaram ajasya vakrachetasaha. Ekadashadvaram Puram. This Pura, this body is a city of 11 gates. He adds 2 more. So all these openings, 5 sense organs of perception, 5 of action, that is 10, and then the Brahmarandra, 11. Ekadashadvaram, 11 ports are there, openings are there, controlling all of them. So coming back to verse number 12, Sarvadvarani Samyamya. Manaha, what should the mind be doing? Hridi Nirodhyacha, keeping it in the heart. Heart means the place where feelings are. Thinking about God, nothing else. Atmanaha pranam murdhya adhaya. Keeping the vital force prana and the crown of the head. Sahasrara chakra. These are not meant for everyone. These are yogic practices. We don't need to do all of these things. Yogadharanam astitaha. Yogadharana means practice of concentration acquired through long practice of meditation. Having mastered the mind, ascended by means of the nerve going to the heart, holding the life breath in the crown. Those things are all for yoga, Raja Yoga practices. We don't need to worry about this. What we have to do is in the next verse. Om ityekaksharam brahma vyaharan manusmaran yah prayati tyajan deham sayati paramam gatim. We have choice. We can either be repeating Om or we can be repeating our mantra given by the Guru, which includes Om. All mantras start with Om. Only Om or mantra. Or we can repeat the name of God only, without any bija mantra. Name of God carries infinite power of God. That we have to do. Keeping the prana in the crown chakra, all those things is not meant for everybody. That's for yogic practices. So verse number 13. Om ityekaksharam brahma vyaharan manusmaran yah prayati tyajan deham sayati paramam gatim. Pronouncing the monosyllable Om, Om iti ekaksharam. representing Brahman. Om represents Brahman. Om is the sound equivalent, symbol of Brahman. In the Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, it says, there is one sutra, Tasya Vachaka Pranavaha. Tasya means of the Supreme Reality, truth. The symbol of that Supreme Reality is Pranava, means Om. Om is the symbol. So if you repeat Om, it represents all aspects of Brahman, with form, without form, with attributes, without attributes, everything. So repeating Om or our mantra or simply the name of God, which we have been repeating all the time. Vyaharan, pronouncing Mam Anusmaran. More important is thinking about God. Anusmaran is remembering God. You have to remember God in our minds at all times. Even if you cannot say anything at the last moment, if you cannot utter the mantra, but you have to keep God in your mind. Remember God. That's the most important thing. Some people are not able to pronounce anything. Some people are not conscious while leaving the body. They lose consciousness before leaving the body. But whatever thought has been there all the time in their life, whatever thought they have been thinking at that moment of losing consciousness, until that moment, that is what matters. Mam Anusmaran, remembering me. Yaha deham tyajan prayati. That person who gives up the body and proceeds, prayati means travels further, saha paramam gatim yati. Such a person reaches the supreme abode. Paramam gati means supreme abode. That is how we have to prepare. Our whole life is a preparation. This moment onwards, suddenly we cannot think about God at the last moment. We have to practice thinking about God in the midst of all our duties from this moment onwards. You can do it anyway, repeating the mantra as much as possible, doing all work as worship or offering to God, keeping God in mind, and performing all our duties, practicing meditation, japa. Japa is very important, repetition of God's name or mantra. We'll do one more verse, easy, 14th verse. Ananyachetas tatatam yo mam smarati nityashaha tasyaham sulabha partha nityayuktasya yoginaha. The Lord says here, I am easily attainable to those people who constantly remember me. To remember God constantly, we don't have to go anywhere else. Wherever we are staying, from there we can remember God. You see, in the Upanishads, that was a different style. Somebody asked this question. There the rishis give up all activities, no family, no job, no children, no house, no money, go to the forest, live there in a hermitage and meditate on Brahman all the time. No karma, karma sannyasa. But that is not necessary. We can do the same thing in our own home. We can remember God in our own, wherever we are staying, in our home or apartment or wherever we are staying. We can remember God all the time. There is no need to go to some other place and give up everything. You can keep the house and we can have the children and family and grandchildren, job and everything. But keep the thought of mind going as the undercurrent in our minds, connecting all activity to God. That is possible. That's the Bhagavad Gita way, modern way. Not karma sannyasa, but karma yoga. Performing all actions as karma yoga, not giving up karma sannyasa. That is for very few people. A very famous verse in the Kaivalya Upanishad, I think is verse number 3. Na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyage naike amartatvamanashuhu. Na karmana, not by activity. Karma means kamya karma. Those days, people used to do Vedic karmas, rituals. Vedic rituals or kamya karmas, they were performed to acquire wealth, to acquire long life, to conquer the enemies, to go to heaven, to have more money, wealth, children. To get all these things, they are doing karma. That karma should be given up. Na karma, not by that kind of karma. Na karmana, na prajaya. Praja means progeny, children, grandchildren. They are only for enjoyment and not for liberation. Na dhanena, not by wealth. Wealth cannot give us liberation. How do we get liberation? Tyagena, by renunciation of all these things. Eke amritattva manashuhu, people achieve liberation. So the simplest way to come back to verse number 14 is to constantly keep in mind the thought of God. Ananya cheta satatam yamam smarati nityasha. Smarati means remembers. Practice of constant recollection, constant remembrance in the midst of our duties. Tasya aham salabaha. To such a person, I am easily attainable. Nitya yuktasya yoginaha. For such a yogi devotee who practices constant recollection of me, I am easily attainable. So what we have to do is to practice constant remembrance, recollection in the midst of our duties. We should not give up our duties. All duties are to be done as worship, as offering, connecting everything to God. So that is the simplest way. We will continue next time, but I have one announcement to make. Our friend, some of you know him, Dr. Ramakrishna in Tampa. He is giving a 10-week course on Bhagavad Gita. The course is called The Architecture of Bhagavad Gita. And he has a unique way of presenting things through the PowerPoint presentation, graphics and everything. It starts from this Friday evening 8:30 to 10 weeks only, and the whole gist of Bhagavad Gita presented in 10 lectures. And many of you know him in Tampa. You can join that Friday evenings 8:30 to 10. If you want to know more information about that, you can go to his website. The website is sanatanadharmausa.org. Sanatanadharmausa, all one word, .org. That's the website, and then you can find information of the 10-week course on architecture of Bhagavad Gita. And if you are interested, I can attend that one. And I can forward that link to some of people. I don't have all the emails of all of you, but I will forward to some of you. Thank you. Let us close with a Shanti Mantra closing prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah. Sarve Santu Niramaya. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu. Ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May all be happy. May all be free from diseases and other problems. May all realize and practice what is noble and dharmic. May no one be subject to misery. Om peace. May there be peace and joy in our hearts. Adhyatmika Shanti. May there be peace and harmony amongst all beings. No ill will, no hatred. Adi Bhautika Shanti. And may there be peace everywhere in nature. Adi Daivika Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. All of you stay well, and God willing, we shall continue next week.